Let's see if my audio is working now. Looks like it's working. Fantastic. Sorry. Sometimes Twitter makes it a bit hard to dial in and to unmute. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are having an, well, uh, okay week. I mean, obviously, the past 24 hours, crypto prices are up. But since our last Twitter space from last week, obviously, we've seen uh, quite some geopolitical events. Ukraine, Russia, the West. We're not gonna dive into the politics here. For us, it's not so much about talking about the war or what's going on there. I think there's enough social media chatter around this. What I really want to focus here on are obviously the events around crypto that we have been seeing. Obviously, there's a lot of narratives around all these geopolitical events are going to be very bullish for crypto. I mean, if you're in this camp, you're definitely on the right side at the moment with crypto pumping. But there's also other voices that say, look, this is just the first wave. Everyone that's really bullish hasn't thought this through fully. There could be a chance of a backlash if we realize or if we notice that a lot of the crypto transactions are coming from illicit sources, and this could have some pushback. And we're going to be addressing those. We're going to discuss those things today. We're going to have a few other updates. So yeah, that's kind of the outline. If you're the first time here listening in, then welcome. We do these on a regular basis on Tuesday. And we always talk about all these various things. It's going to get recorded. We're publishing this on a podcast afterwards on Spotify and all the other podcast channels, wherever you listen to your podcast. So if you don't want to miss any of those, either follow us on Twitter, Cake DeFi, or subscribe to the podcast. With this, let's dive in. Fabio, what's happening in the markets?
Yeah, good day, everybody. Is my microphone working? Yeah.
Yep, mic is on. I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, good day, everybody. I guess never a dull week in crypto. It's like I would never have expected to see it out of nothing, or I don't know if it's out of nothing, but 10% pump and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies making a lot of headlines. There is some wild discussion going on if this is all connected to Russia or not, and what the implication of that would be or is. And I guess we're gonna dive into that topic right now, no?
I would do that. Let's start with that and see where the rabbit hole leads us.
Sure. So I guess everybody noticed Bitcoin pumped, I think, 11% yesterday out of nothing, you could say. And there are a few headlines. I don't know which ones are true and which ones are not, but I think both like Kraken, Binance, and Coinbase, they're about to freeze or have already frozen accounts of Russian citizens. And I think you posted the whale chart where you can see like addresses of people that are holding more than 1,000 Bitcoin are drastically increasing, and we have several public figures jumping into the discussion. I think, of course, and not only positive. So, of course, like in the Bitcoin community or in the crypto community, a large majority of people think this is positive for crypto. This is what it's intended for, and this is good. That you could make the argument that, especially for Russian citizens who are actually kind of innocent, they are not participating actively in a war. They're in some way victims, but those are the people that suffer from this. So there is like a sort of bank run going on, and people try to move into a safe haven. And some of them clearly think that this is Bitcoin or cash. You can see that reflecting in the price. And also bigger exchanges and politicians jumping into discussion and having their own opinion on things, and make it a little bit difficult for people to actually do those things.
Where I see things maybe a bit different is I actually think this pump is not coming out of the region of Russia. And the reason I think this is, if I look at the ruble trading volume with Bitcoin, yeah, it's up. it's at a 9 month high or something. But I think it was, I think in total, maybe 40, 50 million. So 4050 million US dollars converted on a 24-hour basis. So it's not like a super large amount in volume. So what I would rather think, and like put yourself into those shoes. Imagine you are a Russian oligarch, you are in Europe, you're in the US, you're in North America, and now suddenly you're being hit by all these sanctions. And you have obviously physical possessions and you have whatever stocks, bonds, anything that, yes, exists in a physical form, but at the end it's still registered electronically. So you need to kind of get these out of the jurisdiction that you're in right now because you're about like to get these assets taken from you or these assets are being frozen. So what I just think is it may happen, right? Again, I don't know, but you see like a lot of the big yachts, a lot of the private jets moving. There's a lot of tracking going on where these yachts suddenly start leaving the Europe, start leaving the US. And so, I mean, you could just imagine what kind of uh, physical assets are on there. And then you have all the digital assets. And so what do you do there? Um, if let's say you are in stocks and you sell those and you leave them on your brokerage account, it's not going to take long and then these assets are going to get frozen or seized. So you need to do something. So the hypothesis here is actually, in my opinion, not so much this gets like is started in Russia. It may be related to Russia and it may be by people who are connected to Russia and who are outside of Russia and are moving uh, from whatever asset they're in into dollar and from there into Bitcoin. So now the question is more, is this actually happening on exchanges? I'm not fully convinced from any kind of messaging or data that I got from friends of mine who think that they actually think a lot of this was done OTC, so over the counter, which also makes a bit sense. So, and then a lot of them probably bought Bitcoin at massive premiums because if you need to get rid of your dollars or stocks or whatever, you're going to take Bitcoin at whatever price. So some of these people may have bought Bitcoin at 60,000 right now because for them it's more like, okay, I either get nothing for it because my assets are going to be frozen, or I'm going to get Bitcoin at 60,000 and I'm rather going to have Bitcoin at 60,000 than get nothing for it. Um, so where is this kind of idea stemming from? Well, some of it is a bit speculation, and we do have some data. Some data is that Bitcoin whale addresses with at least 1,000 Bitcoin really jumped. So we saw about 140, 150 new addresses. This could be reorgs. I just want to be clear here, right? So this could be cold storages getting reorged. And this could actually stem from simply people withdrawing funds from exchanges, right? Just like what Fabio mentioned. So this is actually price neutral. Um, uh, could be, right? But this associated with um, the price increase actually could signal that maybe some of it was reworks. And the other thing is actual buying. And this could be done OTC. This could just be done on exchanges and then withdrawn. I doubt that this is happening in Russia. The ruble volume is just way too low for that. And again, I'm not an expert enough to understand the currency situation within Russia, how easy it is to have access to dollars, to euros, to Swiss francs within Russia. I'm definitely not an expert in that, and I don't have the experience in that. So I'm just discounting that idea for now. And especially considering that a lot of the banks, transfers, any kind of financial situation in Russia, as far as I was aware, was closed yesterday. So to me, it's just not a likely situation. Um, yeah, and that obviously leads to a very interesting kind of questions kind of going forward. But any kind of additional information, data, ideas that you saw out there that people were sharing regarding where or how this pump could come from?
Yeah, I guess there is two parts of it because like 1 week ago, none of this was happening, and I guess there is two parts. The first one was when the initial announcement, I think this video of Putin that he said he's going to move troops and he's going to engage in war. We had an initial reaction of the market. So risk on assets, stocks, cryptocurrencies dropped massively. I think within an hour, to 5%, something like that. And gold, you saw a big pump in gold. I think gold was up 3 or 5%, something like that. But within a 24-hour period, actually Bitcoin went from being negative 5% to plus 1 or 2, and gold reversed completely. So you had that initial reaction where people thought, okay, maybe now it is a good time to go into a safe haven asset. So Peter Schiff, of course, came out and he said, so here is the evidence. Gold is a safe haven asset and Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin is a risk-on asset because it dumped alongside with stocks. But within a 24-hour period, this changed around again, and gold started, I think, lower than at the start of the day, and Bitcoin was higher. So there was an initial, I don't know, fake out, you could say. And of course, the crypto community was pointing that out to Peter Schiff. And this was like the first reaction of all of these geopolitical things going on. And then, of course, we had what happened within the last 24 hours, where we saw a massive pump, like 11% in a day. And Bitcoin also decoupling from the NASDAQ, because the NASDAQ, I think, had a minus 1% day yesterday, while Bitcoin went 10% up and gold was mostly sideways. So there's a clear anomaly that there is something going on in Bitcoin. Of course, wild speculation surrounding it, but not a lot of data, at least not a lot of data that I saw, besides the things you already mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, these are some very nice points. One thing I just want to add here, this is just for compliance reasons. Cake DeFi, we're not an exchange. So all the things we're discussing here is purely for educational purposes and speculatory purposes. So we don't give financial advice here. Actually, I mean, our ideas and speculation here could be completely wrong. So this is just Fabio and myself kind of summarizing what we see on social media. Actually, our platform is mostly targeted towards people who actually are already in crypto and long-term hodlers that want to get cash flow on their crypto. So I just want to highlight that purely for compliance reasons. Yeah, to kind of point that out here. What do you think does all this mean going forward, Fabio? From what's happening in the market? Does this pump have legs? Is this a fake out? Is this gonna cause a massive regulatory backlash? I mean, I retweeted also that tweet from Senator Warren in the US, who came out and said Russia is gonna try to evade sanctions by going into crypto, and crypto needs to get over-regulated or hyper-regulated. I retweeted that and said the issue is that like a lot of these kind of half-lied stories are gonna, I don't know, be shared and people are gonna tag along. And then I also tweeted that obviously still the majority of people don't own crypto. And so in the case, right, that governments want to cause or want to create some fear or some opposition towards crypto, they can do so. They can easily move people and make people believe something. We have seen over the past 2 years how easy it is to really create fear into both directions, right? We saw this over the last 2 years massively all around the world. And so whether this was substantiated or not, it completely up to individual. There's obviously massive push in this direction, and it would be no problem at all for governments to kind of really hype up whatever 80% of the population right now who doesn't own crypto in the Western world, and tell them how bad all of us are who do own crypto, and that it's our fault that we are basically helping Russians to evade sanctions, that it's us that are the ones who are helping with the money laundering or whatever. And we know how it is. A majority of people don't check the facts. They follow a lot what other opinion leaders or people of authority say. And this could cause some backlash. What are your thoughts on that? What are there things that you see on social media? Do you see influencers who go a bit this route? What's kind of the cautionary side of things? Or is this cautionary side of things completely unwarranted? This rally has legs. We're gonna see the 50,000 next, and then we're gonna see a super bullish month of March. I mean, just also February turned out to have a slightly green monthly candle. So we had 3 negative monthly candles, November, December, January. February now turned into a green one. What does this mean now for March?
Yeah, maybe at first. So, from a seasonality perspective, 60% of March is red and 40% is green. So, a slight tendency to be bearish. Just if you look at all, at the history of the Bitcoin price development during the month of March, and the other things you brought up, I think both camps feel themselves confirmed in what happened. So you have all the Bitcoiners, all the crypto people, and they finally found this is what Bitcoin was made for somehow. That you have the possibility to have this uncensorable, unconfiscatable asset, and in a period of crisis where the Russians and the Ukrainians are in right now, they have options. At least some of them who know what they're doing. But on the other hand, you also see how far along we already are with regulations, because instantly within a week you have the biggest guys in the space, so Kraken, Coinbase, Binance, going alongside with traditional finance and freezing assets of customers that are holding those assets on a centralized exchange. And then you have the other side, politicians, like the tweet you just mentioned from Elizabeth Warren, that say cryptocurrency are dangerous because we cannot sanction them and people can get their money out, and that there's a potential for hazardous behavior or fraudulent behavior that we are not able to control. And of course, both sides jump into the discussions and feel themselves confirmed in what is happening. And there is some potential for backlash that due to these developments that we see more sanctions, more regulations, or a negative mindset from governments or politicians to Bitcoin. I think it's so interesting. The tweet you responded to, I posted it in this space. So if you open the spaces on top, you can see the tweet. And if you jump into the comment section, it is crazy what people say there. An answer to Elizabeth Warren. You have people, of course, stating that the main source of funding is, of course, not Bitcoin. They're trying to get their hands on US dollars, and they're trying to get their hands on cash. And some people are stating this, and other people say that this is what Bitcoin is made for, and that nobody can control it. So I guess it's tough to say where this goes, but it's fuel for both sides, at least. Yeah.
What was interesting, I saw this one tweet. I can't remember who made it, but it was actually quite a lot of respondents. I think it had over 5,000 responses to that Twitter poll. And the Twitter poll was, so you had to basically, it was 4 options. The first one was, I am a Bitcoin holder and I'm pro-sanctioning Russia. Then it was, I am a Bitcoin holder and I'm not pro-sanctioning Russia. I'm not a Bitcoin holder and I'm pro-sanctioning Russia. And whatever the fourth option is, I'm not a Bitcoin holder. And I can't remember what the last solution was now that I left out. So it's either I hold Bitcoin or I don't hold Bitcoin, and it's either you're pro-sanctioning Russian users on the crypto platforms, or you're against it. Guess which one of those 4, and obviously this was a crypto account, right? So I'm kind of giving away already the first choice. I'm a Bitcoin holder, not a Bitcoin holder. I don't know if you have seen this poll. Guess what was by far, actually, I was amazed how many people actually chose that option out of the 4. What do you think?
I am a Bitcoin holder and I'm pro-sanctioning Russia.
No, actually, I'm a Bitcoin holder and I'm against sanctioning Russian users.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was like by far, like out of the 4, I think it had like a 60% voting or something. So it was like really, like it had more than 50% this single option. So and then you saw a lot of the options down where, and I mean, I felt this very interesting. I mean, and I'm surprised that Kraken went through now and is actually freezing Russian accounts, because as far as I remember, Jesse Powell, the CEO, he posted on this Twitter thread where he said he is really sympathizing with Ukraine, but for him, freezing Russian assets is completely going against crypto, and he would only do this if the US forces him to. So I'm not sure what's the status there. This was just the latest message. But I under this tweet, I saw so many people kind of commenting in a similar manner where they were like, "Look, I'm totally like sympathizing with Ukraine here, and I don't understand why Russia is attacking innocent people. But crypto was made for basically this financial independence, and if the exchanges kind of go this route, they're not better than the banks." So I don't know. This was I read that, and I was quite fascinated that there was such a large percentage of people actually going for this route. Any thoughts on that?
Of course, Bitcoiners don't like their assets frozen, or that exchanges or politicians or governments have a big influence on that. So I can imagine that a lot of people, especially in the core community, in the core crypto community, are against freezing assets or sanctioning. But yeah, it is maybe events like this also tell a little bit of a story that there is a danger in holding, especially if you're affected in maybe a country like Russia or Ukraine that has, yeah, how do I say that politely? There are some countries where it's probably a better solution to store your Bitcoin in cold storage, and you're always subject to regulations. And we here in the West, let's say in Europe or in America, regulators are very transparent, and they give you a heads up if things like that are happening. But there is this potential that geopolitical events like a war or something can happen where you are not able to react in time. And I guess for that reason, you have this Bitcoin core community that consistently says you need to store your own keys, and you need to have everything, take your Bitcoin off exchanges, and they feel themselves confirmed in what is happening right now. But it's hard to say why so many people think the same way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and sure, it's a super emotional topic, which obviously also describes the insane kind of price volatility that we see. And I mean, again, the thing is, right? In the short term, a market is always a betting machine, and in the long term, it's a weighing machine. And so, in this short term kind of price movement, I mean, there must be someone wrong, right? I mean, either someone is wrong today or someone was wrong yesterday. It's impossible that both of those kind of scenarios are right, because someone that sold yesterday obviously is wrong today, or someone that is buying today actually may be wrong, and yesterday would have been right, simply what the price is going to do going forward. So it's just a very interesting kind of dynamic here, and I really think a very interesting, I mean, sometimes very emotionally difficult. I posted that last week. It was really crazy. I put my son to bed, and I'm normally not an emotional person at all. And like all this news came out, and I was like, wow, this is really crazy. I'm living here in this beautiful city. Like I don't consider war as one of the probability kind of like scenarios here that I need to face here in Singapore. And I'm just thinking, and not far away, and like suddenly maybe a father that yesterday was able to put their son to bed without any issues, and now he can't. And I don't know, for me this was just really, really, really emotional. And it was interesting. I spoke with other people afterwards, and they kind of expressed a same kind of feeling. And then I was like, why is this actually? Because it's not the first time that we have seen war in the past couple of years. I mean, we've seen this in Africa, and we've seen this in Asia, and we've heard horror stories all around the world. So it's also not the first war in Europe. We had the entire kind of Yugoslavia kind of war in the past 15 years. So it's 20 years. Like time flies, actually. So it yeah, but why was this one so emotional? And I don't know. And it was a very interesting discussion. I mean, I have a philosophy that I want to throw in right now. I'm going to throw it in afterwards, but I want to first hear your thoughts. How did you experience this? To me, this was just this moment when suddenly like Putin declared war, and then like my Twitter thread was like suddenly like Vitalik posting like I take sides. I'm not. I'm subjective. Don't forget, Ethereum is objective. I'm not. And this was just like an entire like it was just unbelievably emotional. I don't know how this was for you or how you experienced this.
Okay, let me try to. I don't want to be political. I'm just stating a few of my feelings and a few observations that I made over the last week without taking sides. There are a few things that surprised me heavily. For example, with all these like social media and the narratives and the media, everything is moving so fast. And within 1 week, you practically saw a large majority of the world, especially in US or in Europe, taking sides. So you have a whole social media movement going on where people have the Ukraine flag in their name, and you see a lot of support. You have Elon Musk jumping in with and a Starlink shipment, and I guess there are a few things that are in our history here in Europe with an enemy to the east that make us identify with the maybe with the underdog here Ukraine, and you also have this public pressure. When it comes, for example, exchanges, where there was not really a court order or anything that says, hey, you need to freeze those accounts, but nobody wants to make a mistake. Nobody wants to, and you can see this when it comes to countries as well. So the EU, they made sanctions for Russia. And then you have like places like Switzerland. They are neutral, but they kind of the first. I think.
How do you see this? I mean, this is
Yeah.
you being a Swiss national. Like, how do you see that aspect? That to me, I tell you, that was a very surprising move. That
Yeah.
Switzerland
Agree.
gave up their neutrality. I don't know.
The
That to me was super surprising.
it was the first time, and oh my god, it was a heated debate. So I have a lot of my friends are in Switzerland. We have this big group chat, and this was like the topic number one that was discussed in there. And initially, it was okay. We broke our neutrality, and so we talked about this. But like there is also in the action of doing nothing. So if you are neutral and you're doing nothing, you're practically supporting the oppressor. And it's also an action that you take. And I guess in the case of Switzerland, they just took the way of least resistance, the way of the least headwinds, because there was a lot of pressure from EU for Switzerland to actually go through with this. And it was, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but it was the first time that Switzerland was not completely neutral and actually took sides. And I'm reading a little bit of Swiss media, and there is some big waves going on, and people are some think it's good, some think it's bad. Yeah, but it, at least from a Swiss perspective, these are pretty crazy developments.
I agree. I mean, I understand that angle from if you do nothing, you are on rather on the side of the attacker, right? But yeah, I again like without like putting any kind of preference for decision making down, yeah, I that one surprised me that Switzerland. I mean, I'm Austrian. Austria also supposed to be neutral. I think Austria gave that up a long time ago. But yeah, with Switzerland being this yeah, normally this poll for neutrality, I mean, that ship definitely has sailed. Um, yeah, if I look at Singapore, I think so far Singapore has obviously it's not in Europe, but Singapore, which is always kind of called the Switzerland of Asia. I think so far politically they have been very neutral. I think they have clearly signaled support for Ukraine, but at the same time, as far as I'm aware, and again, I'm definitely not following here the daily news that's happening, but I think I think so far I have not seen any call for any kind of sanctions or something, but maybe I just completely missed that. So don't take my word for all that. The Swiss story that just is definitely one that popped up on my kind of radar. So yeah. Um, How do you think this is gonna go on? Not so much the geopolitical kind of side, but more on the Bitcoin price kind of side. Because one thing that's also interesting, kind of to note here, is the pump is definitely a Bitcoin pump, and the altcoins actually slightly underperformed in all of that pump. Ethereum actually been the big loser against Bitcoin over the past couple of weeks. DeFi chain did really well against Bitcoin over the past couple of weeks. The last 24 hours, I think it lost about 4% against Bitcoin, which, I mean, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things over the past couple of weeks, it's nothing. It's up strongly, but this pump definitely started out of Bitcoin, which kind of signals a bit that this was kind of the main driver, and then the alts kind of pulled with it. Um, how do you see this going forward? There are talks that the Fed now, and this is now in the next actually 10 days, in their kind of rate hike meeting, they may not hike the rates. They may actually leave them down, or they may only do one rate hike, not two. How do you see this going forward? What is the talk on the street there?
There is, I guess, two factors that come in that play a strong role. Like you have, of course, because there was this 11% pump. And what it does is, of course, lots of publications, the media is talking about this, the community is talking about this. Is Bitcoin now a safe haven asset? Is Bitcoin a risk off asset? Is Bitcoin an asset where in situations of crisis, people flee into it? And the interesting thing is, and like a large majority of Bitcoiners, if you would ask them, how would Bitcoin perform in a financial crisis, in a downturn of the whole economic? Lots of them would actually say Bitcoin will thrive under those conditions. But we actually don't know. Every time there was a liquidity crisis, we didn't have a financial crisis since the inception of Bitcoin. Not a real one, at least. We had some liquidity events like the March 2020 event. And in all of these liquidity events, Bitcoin actually suffered a lot alongside risk on assets. But we never had that for a long period of time, or we never really had a strong, lasting crisis. Of course, we had the whole COVID situation, and after March 2020, Bitcoin and stocks did really, really well, maybe partially to quantitative easing. But in a situation like this, so we have a crisis in Eastern Europe, and Bitcoin is suddenly performing 11%. So the narrative is out there, or people have thesis that Bitcoin actually could be this safe haven asset. But as we stated in the beginning, this has also some dangerous potential that politicians and governments think, okay, this is dangerous. We need to do something about this because, yeah, people can flee the system and can take their assets with them, and there is nothing we can do about it. So I see both sides of the coin. I could see a complete BART pattern that Bitcoin is coming down today or tomorrow, but I could also see that we're going up from here. It's a pretty crazy development. And it's, for me personally, it's almost impossible to make a prediction where we go from here. I would never have expected to see Bitcoin pump 11%, never. But it did. It clearly did. What do you think? Do you have a theory of where we could go from here, or what it could mean for the price?
I think at the moment we're gonna stay at this level for the simple reason because yesterday I would have thought that we're gonna stay at that level where we were yesterday. So yesterday we were, I think, in the mid 30s, and so right now we are in the lower kind of 40s. I mean, with aside of that massive pump, that again, I highly doubt that this was a wide group, like suddenly there was like globally a strong inclination to now buy Bitcoin. I think this was a very small group that now wanted to get exposure into this asset class, and that just like massively pumped the price. But I don't really think that this is going to change much to the underlying fundamentals. So I would have said, if you asked me yesterday before all this pump, where are we going to be? I say, hey, look, I don't see much reason why we're going to go lower. I don't see much reason why we're going to go higher. I think a lot of all the tumultuous action at the moment is priced in. And okay, sure. Now you suddenly have, I mean, price is depending on two factors, supply and demand. Suddenly demand shot up. So the price shot up. but I don't think the underlying demand right now is kind of shooting up. There may be some traders that are selling, but I think this will get offset by kind of this delayed action where people now jump in because they don't want to, maybe they kind of thought that we're going to go into the 20s, right? I mean, a lot of people were talking about, we're going to see the 200-week average. So I think more people, like some people thought so, they sold, and now they're kind of panicking that they're going to miss the train. But as a whole, I really agree. I think at the moment, the goal for you as an investor, and I have kind of been talking about this for the past, I think, 4 months. I think it's really important right now to ask yourself, not how am I going to be right in all this? Like, really ask yourself, how am I not going to be wrong? Very different approach, right? We discussed this last week, and I think this week, like the same kind of target should be. I think this year the aim really has to be, or this year, I mean, for now, and with all this geopolitical action, with the Fed in the next 2 weeks, maybe moving prices, I really think the goal is very difficult of trying to be right. And look, if you're trying to be right, and you're betting on war, then go into typical assets that perform well in war times, right? Go into the dollar, go into the war stocks, go into oil, go into commodities. All these things typically do really well in war times, right? But you actually would have not done so well over the past 24 hours, despite the war in Ukraine heating up. Actually, it was Bitcoin that generally has been a risk on asset, and war typically is not risk on, it's actually risk off, right? So I think it's so tricky to kind of predict where this goes. And I would really kind of encourage everyone to try to position your assets in a way where, yeah, looking back, you're like, okay, I was not right, but I was definitely not wrong. And I posted this on Twitter a couple of times. Like, this entire year, yeah, now, I mean, with the crypto pump and everything, my portfolio is up year to date. And obviously a lot has to do with getting cash flow, my crypto, and DeFi chain doing super well. So like this has been super solid. But of course, I could have made stronger bets into an individual asset class. I could have gone like overexposed into DeFi chain, overexposed into oil, overexposed into commodities. That would have given me way better returns in comparison to how diversified my portfolio is. But on the other hand, I can definitely say I was definitely not wrong. And that goal of mine is going to stay probably, yeah, until there's a bit more of a clear direction. And so I just want to kind of highlight that a bit. Yeah, I don't know if you have any extra thoughts on that. Yeah, that you would love to bring out.
Maybe there are just a few key points I want to throw in there besides the whole thing that is going on in the East, at least from my perspective, it's in the East. We had some major news or rumors. There is a big rumor that eBay will potentially accept crypto or Bitcoin as a payment option. There are news that I think Morgan Stanley has suddenly increased their allocation to Bitcoin via Grayscale to a double-digit percentage. And there is a new miner fabricated by Intel, and it's half the price of a current ASIC miners, and it's 15% more efficient. So these are a little bit of the top headlines that happened within the last 7 days. And of course, on these points and also what is going on in Russia, there were a lot of public figures that came out and had their own take. Like one of the things that I monitored closely was I think the Twitter account of the Ukraine government came out and asking for crypto donations. Vitalik jumping in and saying, "Oh, be careful! Potentially this is a scam." Turning around and saying, "Okay, maybe it's not a scam." So there was lots of interesting discussions and discourse going on, and I guess we will see much more of this. Like for me personally, one of the highlights was when you see public figures like Elon Musk jumping in to these geopolitical things and clearly taking side, and also coming into action. I think he sent a whole shipping container full of Starlink gear to Ukraine after the president of the Department for Technology or something reached out to him on Twitter. So these things are pretty crazy to follow along. And it's definitely a super interesting time we're in.
Yeah, and I mean, we can criticize social media for all its negative effects, but in these situations, you can clearly see, um, yeah, some of its positive effects. So, I mean, this is undeniable. Um, Two things. The first one, I feel we are so connected, and like even with all this is going on, I have a super hard time to distinguish what's really happening and what's fake news. Like that's so, like especially in this situation, like I can follow two different accounts and I feel I get totally opposing opinions or opposing information, not even opinions, but like opposing facts of what's actually happening. So one saying Ukraine is attacking Russia, and the other account says Russia is attacking Ukraine, which is just absolutely bonkers. So I don't know. Like I really felt, and I saw. I mean, especially over the past 7 days, I was like, this is just crazy. Like I felt we're more connected than ever, and I have a harder time getting information, especially on this subject, than ever. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I thought a lot about because we agreed on the title of the spaces ahead. And it's so difficult to state facts or opinions or feelings without taking sides and without being political. Something I really struggle with is also the same thing you just brought up. What is true and what is not true? And a friend of mine, he mentioned he's trying to follow Russian news. And he said it's so twisted and it's so different what they tell in the news in Russia than the thing that we are reading. And this made me think. It made me think: is it like we are? Of course, we are on. I'm in Europe, and I read European media, and I guess of course we have a bias. Of course, we take sides, and it is fairly difficult to see through all the things that currently are on media. And sometimes I try to take a step back and compare it maybe to other things that are going on. And I think there are some similarity. For example, the whole thing that is going on in China with Hong Kong or Taiwan, not Tibet, sorry, and I think potentially Taiwan, or the things that the US did in the past, and now that Russia is doing, and probably connected to I don't know, natural gas or water. There are so many geopolitical things that play into this, and a lot of it gets lost in translation. And for me, it's really hard to figure out. I also try to not take a side, but yeah, it's very interesting to follow and very difficult to filter through all the things that are on social media and on the news. It reminds me a little bit of like the thing that baffles me the most is if you go 2 or 3 weeks back, everything was COVID, and the whole year, actually, the whole 2021 was filled with COVID. And right now, it's like COVID is gone, and there is this new thing, and everybody on social media is discussing this, and probably lots of you are discussing this with your family and your friends. And people are very opinionated on things, taking sides, similar to what happened during the COVID period. Yeah, but now there's something new that is disturbing and yeah, tragic. War is very tragic as well. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, two things I want to bring a bit of a some. I mean, it was such a kind of difficult week from an emotional standpoint, but maybe two funny things that I saw on social media I want to share. The first one was that, like, I don't know, 6 months ago everyone was a COVID expert. 3 months ago everyone was like a monetary theory expert, and right now everyone is a geopolitical expert, which is like so true. And then the second funny thing was like what science used to be all about, and then it had like facts and like research and debate and so on, and then it was like what science is about today, and then it was like who benefits from it and what's being discussed on social media. And so I thought this is so true. It's been, yeah, I think it's gotten so difficult to really like know what to believe, who to follow, um, who has what incentive to say what, how is all this kind of intertwined. I agree with you. I think It's going to be a very interesting one going forward. Is this going to get solved? I mean, some people say we just need more information. We shouldn't be censoring. We should just have more, and then this weeds out all the bad. Sometimes I feel like, yeah, this is just a stimulus overload. Other people say like a decentralized open system is going to solve all this with full transparency, but this got tried so many times. Yeah, so that's a really interesting one. I don't know, what was the funniest thing that you saw over the past week to lighten up the mood?
There was I saw this one meme where you had Homer Simpson going into the grass bush, and previously he was very adamant, or he had on his T-shirt he's wearing a mask, and he's like pro vaccination and pro lockdowns and everything, and he comes out and has a Ukraine flag on his body, and he's like embodying this new thing now. And it seems pretty interesting to me, and also I have lots of understanding for it, that people are supporting these public issues very, very vocally, and have since COVID. I noticed this. Before that, people didn't really come out and voice their political opinions like that on social media. But maybe this whole thing did something to public discord, or to how we are tackling these things. Because right now, for me, it's crazy when I look through my timelines. It doesn't matter on what socials I am. It is filled with this public debate, and with people voicing their opinions and their support for either one side. Like, at least for me here in Europe, of course, a large majority is supporting Ukraine. And you can see this whole movement with everybody has a Ukraine flag in their username right now, or a lot of people at least. Very interesting to me.
Let's finish with some of the cake updates. I'll let you kind of address a couple of very specific things. One thing I want to mention, I know we haven't updated much on the cake related topics on the specifics. That is not because the team is not doing anything. It's just because there's some major kind of releases that the team is working on. There's things where the team is working on that are really a lot on the back end that you don't really see, but that are going to help us to kind of provide you more information, make it easier for you to get some of the data. Some of these updates you have already seen, like over Christmas. Q1 generally for us a cleanup quarter, a lot of preparation for the upcoming months. So just want to address this here, just because I don't have something like as a new thing that kind of got out on every week. This doesn't mean that the team is not working super hard. It's actually the opposite. You're actually going to see quite some crazy announcements actually all of March. But there are some specific things that we have, especially when it comes to the taxes and so on. What are the specific updates, Fabio, that you want to highlight to the team?
One thing that is very dear to me, we have a lot of customers out of Europe, and in Europe, in the beginning of the year, it's tax season, so people providing their tax forms to their government, and we offer this export on Cake. So we make it super easy for you. You can export this in a CSV file or in a PDF file. And but there was a handful of users affected by a network error, where it took us quite a while to fix that, because it was only affecting a very small minority of users, and it was super hard to replicate on our end. We were finally able to identify the problem, and we have fixed that last week. Super happy about that. And there is a lot of smaller things that we are tackling right now. There are a few bigger things that come up during the next few weeks. We will share when we are ready. Other than that, on the Cake side, there are no bigger updates. So for me personally, community work is when there are no bugs and when the price is going up. It is amazing to do community work, because everybody's happy, nobody's complaining. And right now, feels a little bit like that. So we had a pump, the
I would
prices
even
are going up.
say, even if you have $60,000, as long as the price is going up, everyone is happy.
Yeah,
And
true,
if
true.
you have no bucks and the price is going down, everyone is complaining.
Yeah, very true. Like sometimes in internal meetings, like I have a lot of screens, and sometimes people ask me, "Hey, why is there on one of your screen always the Bitcoin price?" And my standard answer is, "This is not the Bitcoin price. This is the community happiness index." If it
Or the
if
Fabio happiness index.
yeah, yeah, but it's crazy. Like I sometimes maybe to finish off on a personal, on a fun note, I try to think of myself to be battle hardened. I spent a lot of years in this space. I entered the space 7 years ago or so, almost 7 years ago, and I personally like to think of myself as battle hardened and not affected by price increases or price dumps. But every time it happens, I kind of get the feeling that I'm lying to myself, because it does affect me quite a bit. So I feel these emotions when the price is pumping, and I also feel the emotions when the price is dumping. And you always say, if you have these strong emotions, you're probably overexposed. Possibly, but yeah, I'm definitely get affected, and so does the community. Like it's crazy how big the impact of price movements is, especially if you're reading through a big Telegram chat. Like we have 12,000 members in one of our chats, in the English chats, and it's crazy what price movements do to the happiness or to the sentiment in those chats.
Yeah, I mean, and we have to highlight here that actually majority of our users are very long-term focused. They are long-term hodlers. A lot of them freeze their funds actually for 5 or 10 years with us. They are long-term committed, and still, you see that it gets to them. So, um, great. From my side, I have nothing else other than I wanna pitch a Thursday Twitter space on the DeFi Chain Twitter account. We're gonna kind of summarize some of the brainstorming around how to get the D token premium down. There was a lot of Reddit discussion around this, and I want to address that with all the kind of people that have an opinion on that. I'll have an opinion, and there's many other people. So we're gonna address that on Thursday, and hopefully we can get to. I mean, actually, we don't really need to get a timeline. It's gonna probably go more towards a regular DFIP proposal, but let's see how that's gonna go on Thursday. So if you are interested in that, then yeah, tune in. And then other than that, shout out to anyone looking into joining our company as a team member. We are hiring, I think, 28, 29 active roles. I think we're now 105 people or something in the company. We preferably hire in Singapore, or we preferably get you to Singapore if you are outside. But we do hire remote as well. But just now with COVID becoming endemic, we feel that, and I mean, I'm actually at the office right now. So I'm doing this Twitter space out of the office. Just amazing to see all the kind of culture together, really brainstorming, having these meetings, and it's just, yeah, this kind of social interaction is just unbelievable. So yeah, definitely would be open in hiring in Singapore, but in general we're open. Yeah, I don't know, Fabio, if there are things that I forgot or things that you would like to add here at the very end.
A small teaser without being specific, but you definitely, if you're not a customer yet, you definitely need to sign up. If you hold, what is better than holding Bitcoin? Getting some cash flow on top of it. If you're planning to hold your assets for multiple years, why not receive cash flow on top of it? So make sure to sign up. If everything goes as planned, we have two really nice promotions lined up for March. I cannot promise you an exact date, but we have something nice planned for you. All you need to do is you need to have a verified account, and yeah, if you don't have one, make one right now.
Awesome. Go to cakedefi.com, sign up there, or cakedefi.com/jobs and apply if you want to become a team member. You're gonna get a very, very, very nice salary. We have insurance for all our team members. You can get stock options. So yeah, you can become business owners at the same time. I think, and we have a really, really fun team. I can assure that to you. Um, with that, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you had, uh, on the one hand, some entertainment over the past hour, but also hopefully something to think about, some informative action here. I want to say thanks to Fabio for co-hosting this together with me, and obviously to all of you for tuning in. I hope you stay safe, you stay healthy, take care of yourself and your family. Good decision making, good fortune. Talk to you next week. Appreciate you all. Thanks so much.